Hello, everybody, and welcome to the February episode of Maw of Mike, the best Dungeon Crawl Classics related show on this Twitch channel tonight. I guarantee that. I probably, I try to find a better show, tonight, because it's the only one. So, as you may or may not know, this is the monthly show where we kind of do a preview of what's coming down the pike, DCC related through Goodman Games. I am Mr. Michael Curtis, the high poobah of DCC here at Goodman Games. And tonight, we're going to change pace a little bit. We're, as if you've been hanging around the DCC community for a while, you know that Joseph Goodman, very early on, he basically said, if you want to write stuff for DCC, let me know. I have a license, and I'm really easy to work with. And since that time, the third-party publishing scene for Dungeon Crawl Classics has gotten rather large. And so we have three representatives of the third-party publishing crowd on the show tonight. And we're going to be talking with each one of them and seeing what they have in store this month for you crazy we need more DCC stuff fans out there tonight. But before we get there going, I have a couple of updates about things which are going on in DCC land on the Goodman Games side. As you probably know, last month saw the end of the Mystery Map Adventure Design Contest. So we got a large number of submissions, and we are currently in the process of divvying those up and sending those out to the various judges so that they can be evaluated, and we can pick a round of finalists, and that can move on to see who the lucky winner is going to be. I'm hopeful that we have the finalists picked by the end of this month, and then I would like to be able to announce the winner, hopefully by GaryCon, which is kind of third week in March, if I remember, if not right around that time. So thank you very much for everybody who has submitted. We're looking forward to going through them, and hopefully we'll be working with at least one of you in the future. So that's the big news of what's going on with the Mystery Map contest. If you've been watching social media or the Goodman Games website, you probably saw a teaser a couple days ago about Dungeon Crawl Classics number 100, the long announced and long delayed capstone of the first 100 adventures that Joseph began oh so long ago. And what a better person to write DCC 100 than Mr. Harley Stroh. I have had the opportunity to look at DCC 100. I have had the opportunity to look at the prototype for the spinny map. And it is going to be a wonderful, exciting product, probably unlike anything that anybody has quite seen before. I mean, people have seen spinny stuff before, but I think Harley has outdone himself with this. There will be we will be announcing a Kickstarter for that. I don't want to give an exact date because things could still slip, a day or two in one direction or the other. But I think it's a fairly safe bet to say within the next 14 days, keep your eyes out on the website and social media. And I think there's going to be a month-long celebration of various ways that you can be involved. I believe the plans are we will probably do a kickoff show here on Twitch. So we'll have Mr. Harley Stroh on, some other people, and we'll have some other stuff over the course of the month. Originally, I was thinking about going to have him on the show tonight, but you'll see more of Harley over the next month than probably anybody's seen him since Gen Con. So I figure I'd give him a break. So one other thing before we kind of get to the meat of the show, there is something, speaking of third-party publishers, James Posnell is putting together something which is called, now depends on whether you speak Gaelic or whether you speak, I saw this word in the player's handbook many years ago, and that's the way I pronounce it. It is called Gesh Across the Multiverse. Or for those of you who do not speak Gaelic, Gias Across the Multiverse. So it is basically what it is. It is a third-party publisher-themed collaborative Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing event. So basically, players will attempt to save the multiverse from doom while experiencing a wide variety of third-party publishing content, sometimes even within the same 4-hour game slot. So over the course of 2022, join the third-party publishing community at upcoming cons, both physical and online. And basically, James is hoping that we have many stories to tell inside this event framework. The hope is that no 2 4-hour block will be the same. And this Gesh will culminate and a special round 2 event at Gen Con 2023 to bring the story to a conclusion. So if you're a third-party publisher and you want to be involved in this, they're looking for on March 1st, basically deadline of saying, yes, we're interested. We will be posting a link in the chat. And if you're watching this, we'll post a link now, and we'll post a link later toward the end of the show. If you're watching this asynchronously on YouTube, we're going to put it down in the show description as well. So click on that and go check stuff out. And we hope you want to get involved. So with that, I think that's pretty much the stuff. I have more to say at the end of the hour, but now let's go get to some more guests. I'll be right back with our first guest. So. Hello, everybody. We are back. I hope that wasn't too long. So my first guest tonight is Mr. Tim Shattley. And Tim is actually has just launched a Kickstarter that we're going to talk to you about now, because this is actually a very interesting one, because you get actually twice the bang for your buck. So Tim, thank you very much. Welcome for being on the show, especially at kind of the last minute we got everything together. So.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, good, because you're stuck here at least for the next 10-15 minutes. So we'll make the best of it. So Tim, what do you have in store for the people? Tell us a little bit about the Kickstarter that is going on.
So the Kickstarter is Tribal Games Tournament of Champions. Essentially, it's written in the Mutant Crawl Classic chassis. What ended up happening was run through a series of campaigns with my home crew from Monday nights, and had a few people that were not quite ready to level up yet. So I needed to create some content for it. So basically I created the Mutant Crawl Olympics, and it's a way to run through, but because Mutant Crawl Classics runs on the same chassis as DCC, the way everything is built, the only thing you need to change if you wanted to run it as a DCC module was just change the thematics around what it is. Instead of, someone being a mutant, okay, this one is a fighter or something else.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's I speak from personal experience. Even if we're still dealing with kind of like a tribal game situation, this would not be the first time, if you ran it in DCC, where we've had that kind of tribal environment. Most famously in Frozen in Time, which I wrote, where we have Neolithic cavemen versus time travelers. So it's in that same kind of idiom. So I mean, right there. And to be quite honestly, I find it hard to believe that there's any DCC or MCC fan out there who would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, no, I can't play this. I can't play this MCC thing in DCC." Clearly that's breaking the walls.
Yeah, well, and with this, I tried to be as flexible as possible so that it fits into any campaign, as well as you can, like I said, you can run it as a straight Mutant Crawl Classic, or where it's one tribe versus another, or multiple tribes together, or you could flip it to DCC where it's a village versus another one, or one group of nobles heroes versus another group of nobles heroes. So it's however you want to run it.
Okay. All right. So in the post-apocalyptic, world of the future or the far past, depending on where you're currently setting your MCC campaign, what kind of games do we have in the tribal games? Can you give us a sample of one or two of them? Or?
Sure. The way it's set up is that there's 5 basic games, or 5 5 initial contests that run through your base games, and they're going to be things like a game where it's archery, so either archery or a blowgun, right? They're based on each of the skills, so you have strength, agility, stamina, personality, but the winner, whoever has the most points, the top 2 after those 5, get into the final championship event, which they're each given a hopper, which is just a giant grasshopper, and then they have a jousting event.
Oh, okay.
So now that's the base premise, is the five contests with the championship afterwards. But I've also given about half a dozen other alternative games that they could run, as well as events you can run for role playing at night. For instance, something could happen. There's a feast and something happens there, or there's alternate games where essentially each game takes 20-30 minutes to run, so you can plug and play to where you can get this to fit in a 30-minute time slot or a 6-hour time slot.
Okay. This sounds to be, this is actually kind of like a good, not quite downtime, but like when you're kind of ready for like the next big adventure is, but like you said, it kind of came up in that situation where not everybody was quite ready to level up. Like if they finish that last adventure and they're maybe 5, 10 experience points too short in order to go, and rather than kind of go into the installation of evil and then get 6 rooms in and they're like, oh, I'm ready to level up. I mean,
Yep.
that's like, it'd be very useful. I see that. So,
That's exactly what happened, and that's exactly what drove me to write it. And then once it was done, my home crew, which by the way, hey guys, but they really seemed to enjoy it. So I said, hey, you know what? Let's put this out there and see if other people might like playing it. So that's kind of why I self-taught myself how to do the publishing software, and then laid it out and figured out how to put it on, drive through RPG, so that way I can just, send everybody the codes. It's already written, it's done, it's good to go.
hmm.
I'm just waiting on the thing to finalize as far as test prints.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. As I got my start in this business basically of doing. I wrote a mega dungeon. I had no idea about how to do layout, do anything like that. Like I laid out the entire book in MS Word. I mean, I mean, it's literally like moving tables and all the rest of that stuff. And then a lot of people are like, why don't you update us? Like, because I never want to look at that thing again. I think any graphic designer would just smack me for like taking a look at that. So I totally I get how much of pain that can be, but I also know how much of an accomplishment it feels like when you finally get that. Like I managed to get this work, and then jumping through like all the hoops of like getting it on drive through, and I mean, and then you get to talking with even the whole process of I mean, Joe's pretty fairly he's as long as it's not crazy offensive or something, he's mostly like that's a good idea, by all means here it's a official Dungeon Crawl Classic MCC product, so so
I was a total moron about this. I thought, oh, I wrote it in Word. It's put together. How hard could it be to set this up for publishing? Yeah, I learned real quick.
right. But the thing is you've gotten further than probably about 95 other people, because a lot of people go like, how hard can this be? And then they figure out how hard it is and they stop.
Yeah.
Is it easier for me to pay somebody else $10 for this? Or, or do I, have to go through the whole problem of that? So
Yeah.
you said you haven't written or anything. So are you, since this is kind of like your first time out the gate and everything, are there like no stretch goals? No, this is just like I'm just doing this
There's
and like
there's no stretch goals. It's the first time on, like I said, this is actually the second module I wrote, first one I'm publishing.
okay.
The other one that I've done is actually in process. I'm actually getting consigned artwork for that one. So that one should be released, I'm hoping, within the next probably 4 months, sometime after GaryCon. So I've got another one waiting in the wings. But for this one, yeah, there's no stretch goals. It's just, hey, do you want it in PDF copy or do you want a hard copy of it?
Hmm.
And that's really all that they're, clean and simple. I've already had enough challenges.
Are you doing it print on demand, or are you actually doing a print run of it that you're
I'm gonna do a print on demand. I'm just gonna run everything through Drive Through RPG. It's, once again, that's just something else I would have to learn. I'd have to figure out how to go out and do. And I want to get this material. I want to get it out in the public so people can use it and GMs can play it, fit it into their games. And here's the other thing. I know it's going to be more reliable if I get it in there. I get everything to Drive Through RPG, and then they do print on demand, and it's out there and it's ready to go for anyone who wants it. So I don't need to set up more challenges for myself than I've already got.
it's that I think you're very wise doing that way. And I have always said, people ask me a lot, I've been in the business now for we're getting professionally since 2008, so we're slowly clipping on a decade and a half now. And so people often ask me is like, like what advice do you have if I want to do this professionally, or if I want to get into the industry and everything. And the advice I always tell them is get your stuff out there. I mean, that's because nobody's going to come to your house and say, what do you have? It's you only get noticed by by doing the sweat work and figuring out that and getting it out. And then I mean, you can never tell what the audience is going to, what what the audience is going to latch onto. But again, you're doing something that like 95% of people who set up don't manage to get it done. So you have my congratulations and my respect for doing that.
I'll
So
tell you, I think it was more stubbornness than anything else.
well,
Here's a brick wall. I think I'll run headfirst into it.
uh, if it works, it works. I mean that's all that matters. I think
Yeah.
that's it's I'm very I hope that it's a success, and then I hope that people kind of say latch on this. This I've always been that like the third party publishing community with DCC, with MCC and everything is just such it's just such a great opportunity for people to like you're just really kind of getting started, and like this is it. This is what I can do. Literally, this is what I can do. Like on more some other things, not only write this, but like actually go through the whole process of getting out there. And it helps kind of build that extensive fan base and people exchanging ideas and everything. So I think that's
Yeah.
that's
I mean, this isn't my career. This is just, I wrote some stuff, me and my guys have fun playing, and, we have a good time playing MCC, and we play DCC, and wrote some stuff. And it's like, okay, hey, you know what? I got some extra time at night. Let's figure out how to put this out there in the world. So that's really all it boils down to.
when you were doing when you were playtesting, as in I wrote this I was actually running this for my group. Was there is a particular memorable event during the tribal games? Did something go horribly right or horribly wrong for one of the players?
Oh, something always goes horribly wrong. I mean, that's half the fun of DCC. And part of this whole thing is, when you throw in the crit and fumble results, that to me, that's actually part of the fun stuff. Is when how do we play with that type of thing? So, I mean, I don't want to give away any little tidbits, but the reality is every single one of the events, there's bad things that happen if you fumble. There's bad things, just bad things happen. But at the same time, in the general games, it's far less deadly. But at the same time, I also included rules in there where you can convert this very easily to a 0 level funnel. And one of the playtesters ran it as a 0 level funnel, and it was, it had a bunch of just really funny ways to do it. And we created some interesting ways for people to die, or PCs to die.
What level was it written for?
It's actually written so that you can run people from any level. So you can do someone who's level 1 versus someone who's level 3. And I think one of the other things that's kind of cool or different about it is your typical module is you're a team that's going out there to a facility to dig your way through it and find cool stuff. Mm-hmm. With this module, you're actually competing against each other, as well as you each get NPCs, and then you play them. So you can play that NPC as, just as hard as you play your person to try and get them to win, or you can use them as cannon fodder. It's really, it gives the players a chance to go against each other, as well as to just play and have fun.
Okay. All right. So are most of the challenges like physically? I mean, for the Olympics, it makes sense. Like a tribal games, are most of them like physically related? I mean, is there?
Well, give you an example. Like there's your standard wrestling match, right? So it's going to be 3 bouts. 3 rounds to about match, 3 sets to the entire bout, and it's run using the grappling rules.
Okay. All right.
So
okay, but what I'm going to say is like, so it sounds to me like an opportunity is that if you have like your players are doing that, since you have these NPCs or whatever, I don't know if this was like the intention, but if somebody is, say you have like one of the characters isn't very strong, so obviously they're probably not going to be involved in like the wrestling match or anything, but you could always have like here's this NPC, and you could actually have the 2 players, like one player doing the NPC while the other one is playing their character, and you can have like them roll off against each other, and you can actually take a passive role and watch how things go out. I mean, that's just an idea. That's one of the ways I love doing that when the opportunity comes up. But but I don't know if that's intention or not. But if not, for the rewrite.
In typical style, yes, is the answer. You could run it like that if you want. The way I had set it up was you pick one of your own PCs that you want to run through it, and then you're handed an NPC as well. And that NPC represents a seeker from a different tribe. And now you're playing both of those characters, and you're competing either against each other or against the other people at the table.
Okay, good.
So some of the events, everyone is rolling at the exact same time, and they're all like a big group doing it. Other ones, like the wrestling, you're going one-on-one versus someone else. So, each of the games is different. And it took a little while to work out the mechanics of how to do each game and have it make sense. Was this a personality challenge? Is this, how do you incorporate luck? What's agility versus strength, and those types of things.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you got a lot of the bases covered there. So, I hope the Kickstarter goes well for it. And this is Tribal Games Tournament of Champions. So it's out there right now. If you have any final words before we got to wrap things up? We got some other people waiting to tell us about their cool stuff. So,
I just want to say thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to get this out there. Thanks to my Monday night crew, my crash testers. Because I just throw a ton of stuff at them, and to see what sticks, and this is one of the ones that stuck. So
all right. Well, best of luck to you. All right, everybody else, we'll be back in just a couple of moments with yet another person who's got something to sell to you. Hey everybody, it's me. I'm back, and I brought somebody new with me. So ladies and gentlemen and viewers out there, please welcome Mr. Skeeter Green to the ball of Mike. Skeeter.
Hey everybody, I'm just happy to see Mike. It's been so long.
It has been a long. It was. I think last time I saw you, it was you and your wife at Gen Con. Back in the world that was like.
Gen Con 50.
Was that? All right. So yeah,
it's been years.
Yeah, I know. but hopefully one day we will see each other in the person again. But until then. Yes. Why don't you tell us a little something about the Valley Out of Time?
Well, the Valley Out of Time, it is rumored, is a Kickstarter that I'm getting launched on February 21st. The premise of the Valley Out of Time is that is a series of 6 zine-sized books. I'm going to do 3 Kickstarters through this whole year. So there are going to be 6 total books. The first Kickstarter that launches here in a couple of weeks is going to be book 1 and 2. The first book is called Welcome to the Valley. And the second book is called Exploring the Valley. And the entire premise of Valley Out of Time is it is this prehistoric, low tech, low development region. It is the Frank Frazetta oil paintings, the Roy Krenkel art, Land of the Lost, 1 million years BC, where
Valley of the Guanji.
Yeah, it's you standing almost naked with a wood spear with a giant lizard coming down, gonna attack you, and that's your adventure. And it gets a little more sophisticated than that. The first book.
Why bother?
Yeah, I mean that's great. I'm hitting the high notes right off the bat. The first book is it's zine sized. We're not in layout yet. I'm still waiting for some art to come in, but layout is going to be complete before the Kickstarter ends. So I will have physical product or I will have things to show off so people don't feel like they're getting scammed. But the first book is going to be about 20-ish pages. There's 4 encounters, and it talks a lot about the region, why you might be there. It gives you some hooks. It talks about some of the indigenous peoples, and there are some large benefits to befriending these people, because you are honestly cut off from everything you know. And it is it's an old school overland survival game. So, like,
With
Isle of
dinosaurs.
Dread, except you're not on an isle.
You're in a valley.
Yeah, you're in a valley. And the second book, Exploring the Valley, has a couple of more drop-in encounters. So they're kind of pre-made, and you can put them in whenever you want. And it has, I think, 15 pages of random encounters. So you can do it hex crawl style. So you can explore this. The region has jungles, grasslands, and hills.
Okay.
So it's not, I didn't want it to be a setting so much is I wanted it to be able to be dropped into an existing campaign. And I even discussed it in the very beginning. I don't give you a lot of background, and I don't give the game master a lot of things. This has to be here and this has to be here. So it kind of puts some work on the referee to incorporate it, but it also makes it flexible enough. It can be put anywhere.
Right.
So I didn't want to have a lot of hangups like, oh, there's a giant clock tower you walk through. How am I going to incorporate this in my campaign that has no clock towers? So basically it's a glade through the mountains, and then you get the Jurassic Park, view, and it's like, oh man, that lizard is huge. It's that kind of oh, I want to play dinosaurs,
Right.
that's kind of the thing. So the first two books, that's going to be the Kickstarter that's coming up, and I tried to price my pledges on this to be a lower investment. So I'm not so awesome a writer. I think every person who plays RPGs is going to need these books. So I wanted to make it really easy for people to pick and choose. Like, hey, that book sounds interesting. I'm into that, but I don't need that stuff. So I'm not going to buy it. So yeah, it's a $10 buy-in.
Okay.
And if you buy both books at once, it's $18 for a bundle.
There you go.
And
it's $2. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you get to save some money, and you get to pick and choose what you want. And it is being released for DCC, MCC, because I release everything from SGP with those two sets kind of merged. I created my own stat block for that to make sense, which was really easy.
Right.
And for Swords and Wizardry. So it's kind of covering the whole old school game player genre.
Right. So question here.
Yes.
Is there tar pits?
That is up to.
I have to spend $18 to find out.
Yeah. Well, that's actually up to everybody else.
Oh, okay.
When you have that, there are sections in the S&W book and the DCC book that has an Appendix N bestiary. So I reference things from the Goodman core books. Hey, if these encounters are not shown with these monsters, these would be great. Bring these in too, just as a kind of an idea generator. But let me tell you, there were a lot of creatures that I found that live in jungles that are not represented in the DCC book.
There are a lot of creatures which aren't represented in the DCC
book.
So
there are
to be a comprehensive bestiary.
yeah, no, and that's the great thing. But the encounters that I present in the second book has stats for a lot of these. So it's going to be, there. Oh God, now I can't even think of an example of, but there's so many, there's 15 pages of stuff. So yeah, and there is an appendix that says, hey, I'm not telling you how to run your campaign, but if you want a little bit of background, here's something that might be an idea. And I run through 2 pages of the background from my campaign where this would be set. So it does give some information. The way I have this planned is the odd books, the 1, 3, and 5 will be more story and adventure based, and the even books 2, 4, and 6 will be supplemental information and more drop-in things. So
Okay. All right. So so we're for the first Kickstarter, is it just for the first 2 books, or is somebody okay.
first 2 books.
Okay, so I was just gonna say, if somebody loves the brand and says, like, I want to be all in for all 6, that you don't have that option just yet, right?
I do not have that option just yet because, and honestly, this is a little bit of an experiment for me. I'm gauging interest on this model, because if this works, I have 2 more years of ideas to do exactly like this. So I kind of want to break it up and see if it is not hitting the sweet spot for anybody, and I get like 15 people that say, oh, this is awesome. There won't be a 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Trust me with that.
They're smart there. But now here's the question: is that if these go out and word is really, world is really, is really, people like it, and people start saying, going online, saying, oh no, these were great, I'm glad I spent $18 to get them and everything like that. Whatever, 4 months, 6 months down the line, 3 and 4 come out. Do you think there'll be an opportunity for people to pick up 1 and 2, or is it
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And the way this will end up is and the arc is about 3 or 4 months from now for 3 and 4. I already have the titles. I've already started them. At the end of the year for 5 and 6, there's a rumor that there will be a hardback compilation of all 6 if somebody wants to get in. And at that point, there's also a rumor that there will be a 5th edition version as well.
Okay.
Of strictly the hardback compiled, because that's more of a 5th edition style. That's what a lot of 5th edition people are used to. Hardback, solid, WotC quality books, and I can't do that unless this whole thing works very well. Then I can sink some more resources into that. But
right. So it sounds like you want to do and everything. You've got these written up. Do you have any stretch goals planned, or is it just going to be like this is it? Go. All right. Well,
no stretch goals. I have seen far too many Kickstarters that start off great, and as soon as you realize, oh man, yeah, I'm just going to add 1 or 2 stretch goals. Oh no, it's times 1,500 people who have pledged. I didn't consider that. So this is really kind of a lower buy-in, get some ideas out there. My intent, for the people who don't know about Kickstarter as much as some of us do, they used to do a thing in February called Zine Quest, and it's a low dollar way to get some product out there, get your ideas out there. They're moving it to later on in the year, this year,
right around Gen Con, when everybody has all that money just flew around doing nothing, right?
Yeah, I have so many things to say about that, but I'm gonna not. So yeah, this was kind of the the punk rock, I'm going to sell this out the trunk of my car kind of thing. Good quality, but it's not, I'm not looking for this to be a WotC level polished product. I don't want that. That's not even the goal. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, it's funny. It's because now Tim said he didn't have any stretch goals. You don't have any stretch goals, and I think there was a time where I think the people, the backers on Kickstarter would be like, well, why are there no stretch goals? Like why? Like 5, 8 years ago, when Kickstarter was like really kind of going, it was still kind of crowdsourcing, and before it became more in. But I think that the attitude has changed. I think people are more like, I think that people have been burned by far too many, things having too many stretch goals. So I think the attitude of even the backers have been, oh, no stretch goals, I'm actually cool with that.
Well, I think especially in our sphere, the RPG kind of realm, Kickstarter has really matured a lot of people, and the consumers, as much as it pains me to say this, aren't stupid. I mean, they can see things, they can see what happens. So when somebody says, oh, I'm going to promise you, you know, this golden calf, you know, kind of thing, and the people are like, you're not going to be able to pull that off.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, some very large names in the hobby put their names on projects that didn't fulfill,
Yeah.
and that hurt all of us. So yeah, I want to keep it small. I want to put ideas out there. I want to put out ideas that may not work, just because I want to, you know, if you don't bump up against the boundaries, you don't know where they are.
All right.
So, you know,
You have it written? Do you have art commissioned already? You have art on hand, and or
I have the covers are in work. I have the art is due next week. The writing is done. I have to get the rest of the art in to start layout, but layout will begin probably before the Kickstarter launches. For updates, I will have finished covers before the Kickstarter is finished. And fingers crossed, unless there's a calamity, as soon as the funds clear Kickstarter, I will send PDFs out.
all right.
So
When does a calamity ever happen? You know, we've been cooking along fine for 2 years with nothing going on. You know, and it's like
I've been living the dream, man. This is actually my backyard here. You know,
I can see the dinosaurs from here.
yeah, you know, there's one out there in the water. I went the wrong way.
Any of the artists? You want to give a shout out to any artists? Anybody you know, or
Keelan Halverson, Wonky, he did a bunch of art for my book Cryptocodex, and he did the art in the DCC version of Crypt of the Science Wizard. And yeah, he's fantastic. Ed Bickford did a piece for me, and Charles Wright of Frog God Games fame is doing layout. So that's my layout buddy. He's taking care of the covers, and I think people will really like the covers if they have any knowledge of the old dinosaur movies. We're kind of riffing on the movie posters of old dinosaur movies, so
right.
it's a little tongue in cheeky, but it looks really good. I like it.
Okay. All right. Cool. So what is this? What number product now is this for you for Skeeter Green Productions or SGP? Is it because you've had what's this? I don't want to insult you, but I was so
yeah. This series will be my third product.
Okay. All right.
Because I have Crypt of the Science Wizard in multiple rule sets. I have the Cryptocodex monster book in DCC MCC, and then Valley Out of Time, which will be 6 books, but that is the third product. I'm only counting it as one.
I thought this was the third one, but I didn't want to insult you by saying, oh no, this is my 27th one. Where the hell have you been, Curtis? You know, like this.
No, it's well, and what's hard is honestly, MCC and DCC rejuvenated some of my writing ability. When I made Crypt of the Science Wizard for the DCC conversion, it just opened up so much more in my brain. I wrote the second level, but that is on the back burner because so many other projects have piled up in front of it. That's also something I'm hoping this summer is going to go to Kickstarter.
Right. So. Yeah, it's amazing with a rule set which doesn't have, you know, it just has just enough structure to get you going and doesn't have like a huge bestiary. You're like, oh well, what's the challenge rating of this, you know, troglodyte elder that I want to put this counter? It's just like, you know, like
who cares?
Exactly. Oh, you know, is it tougher than an ogre? Sure, you know.
Yeah, why not?
9 hit dice for everybody, you know.
Yeah, that while I do love that, when I'm creating, you know, 15 pages of encounters, having to create all that stuff on the fly and go, okay, so why is this giant bee so much tougher than, you know, a dragon? Well, maybe I need to modify that. You know, things get out of hand, but it's very fruitful for creativity.
it could be worse. You could be doing 15 encounters with 3.5 stat blocks. So then it'd be an 80.
You shut your filthy mouth. I did that for a decade with Frog God Games.
All right. All right. Well, Skeeter, we thank you very much for coming on and telling us all about the Valley Out of Time. As DCC diehard fans know, I'm a big fan of anything out of time. So, you know, so we might even be able to put a tower in there at some point, you know, so.
A monolith.
The monolith, yeah. So, all right. So, that's so. Do you have a launch before we go? You have a launch date for that scheduled?
February 21st. It's right before I leave for TotalCon.
Okay. All right. So, So everybody mark your calendars and check out Kickstarter then. All right. We're gonna go back. Thank you again for coming on, Skeeter. It's good to see you. We'll be back in a few with our last but not least guest. Hey everybody, I am back with my last guest of the evening, a name which, if you don't recognize the face, you will definitely recognize the name, Mr. John Marr from Purple Saucer Games. John, it is so good to see you again. It's you know, welcome onto the show. No.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Yeah, thank you very much for spending the extra money to make sure we have the correct coloration of the show in the background for Purple Saucer Games. So,
it's very purple.
So for the four of you out there, to which you do not know, John has been part of the DCC third-party scene since I think before Joe Goodman published DCC. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but somehow it seems like the book arrived the day after the Purple Saucer, you know, website went up or something, you know. So. But
it was very early on, you know, and
it really was early on. You know, I think, you know, I know Crawl was like the first third-party zine or everything, but you know, I mean, the ventures you were putting out, they had to be, if not the first, like the second ones that were coming out. You know,
yeah, Perils of the Sunken City was the first one to come out, and it was about, I think, just a couple days in front of Stephen Newton's Attack of the Frogs. So it was real close there, but it was, you know, the first one, because, you know, I clearly remember the discussions with Joseph when I sent him this adventure idea, and he's like, "Well, we got this third-party publishing thing," and but the adventure was almost complete, and that's probably why, you know, I was able to get it out.
Right, but although we would love to talk about that, that's not the reason you're on the show tonight, because Purple Saucer Games has something more recent, or at least soon to be coming out. So why don't you tell us about the Dread Specters of the Shrieking Vale? There's like a Valley Vale motif going on, totally unplanned, but you know, so it's like the next valley over from the Valley Out of Time. So why don't you tell us about it?
Well, this is actually one I'm super excited about, because it's written by my son Benjamin, who has been, if anyone remembers from like when I did like a Kickstarter for the Crawler's Companion, he and my daughter did like a little video where they were, you know, playing the game and doing stuff, and he was a little guy, he was like 11 or something like that, but he's always wanted to do adventures, and he's in the past like 3 years, he spent 2 years over in Indonesia doing a service for the people there, and we had a chance like once a week where we would be able to text back and forth, and while he was there, he was telling me about like all this really amazing Indonesian folklore that he talked about people, and it was just like, you know, really fascinating stuff. And he's like, you know, Dad, you know, I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to write that adventure, and I want to write it with kind of like hints of all of this Indonesian folklore, because it's just so fascinating. It's so cool, and it's also, you know, some of it's unexplored. Like people haven't put this in adventures before, and so that's what's so exciting for me, because I'm watching my little guy. Now he's grown up. He's a great writer, fast writer, which is awesome. but so, you know, he's taking that stuff, and then like, so while he was over there, he'd be thinking about his adventure. And so now that he's back and going to college, it's just like we're jumping on it. And so, you know, everyone loves a good jungle adventure, and this is just, it's that, but it also takes all these cool elements that he's very excited about.
Okay, all right. So so can you give us kind of like a general premise, or, you know, a teaser about the adventure, aside from Dread Specters of the Shrinking Vale? I mean,
well, well, it'll be a three adventure arc, And starting off with the first one, it's just like there's the standard DCC. There's a village in peril, and their word has gone out that like there's this shrieking coming from the jungle that goes every night, and it never stops, and it's just starting to drive everyone nuts. And so the locals are desperately calling for, and because they're all terrified going out and trying to find out what it is, because it's like they're out there. It's set in a village that once was more prosperous, but now over the years it's kind of like become kind of a backwater, and so it's kind of losing its essence. It's losing, and now this could be the final straw that this village could just disintegrate because there's just all these terrible things going on. But so then this village is just filled with, so it's a combination of exploring mystery, find out what's going on in the jungle, but the village is just, it's all these people Benjamin met in Indonesia that these wonderful, interesting characters, and some of them find their way, versions of them in this adventure that are in the village. So it's this combination of just like there's just all these interesting characters, and then there's like this as you go and you meet them and you find out what's going on, that there's this bubbling mystery, which then of course unfolds into something much larger. And so that's why it plans to be a 3 adventure arc and this is just the starting.
Okay, so it's 3. It's going to be 3 separate adventures. It's not 3 separate adventures in the book, right? It's not. So is
no. So we're starting off with this. This is just the first adventure of the Dread Specters of the Shrieking Bell, and the additional stuff that'll be added is all about filling out the Great Jungle, which is where it's set. This is kind of like when I originally created the Sunken City. The idea, as others have mentioned, is just you want to make it so people can place it easily into their campaign. And so like it's a generic Great Jungle that'll be filled out, but it'll be filled with all kinds of the kind of sandboxy stuff, the random tables, all those kind of things. So it'll be like you'll have this adventure arc, but then also around it is all this stuff that you can take and just put into any sort of jungle campaign that you want to add.
Okay, now I have a question. Is there tar pits?
Mike, there will be tar pits.
Okay, good. That's it. You got my money.
Yeah, there'll be everything jungly because it's just going to build and build. Because then the second venture, which is the one that Ben is most excited about, that's the one he was actually picturing in his head mostly when he was first writing down the adventure ideas. And so that second venture is really cool, and then that will add more details about the history of the Great Jungle and all these things. And then the third one will be the big final adventure where everything will come to a head. But then also it's going to be where we'll combine everything that's been created in the first 2 into this third one as an option. And that's, when they talked about like the fancy book stuff, that will be probably that third book is when we'll look at doing some fun things when it's all, because it should be huge by that point with all the additional material. Yeah. Which is fun.
What kind of page count are we looking for the first one here? Is this
it's like I'm like me personally, I'm terrible about writing too long adventures. It's like when I wrote Perils of the Sunken City, that was kind of based on, because the only adventure that existed outside of the one that was in the rule book. No, it was the one in the rule book that came. What's Joe's adventure? I'm forgetting the name. The first one that was in the first quick play rules.
Portal Under the Stars.
Portal Under the Stars. And so it was kind of like I looked at that as my example of this is what an ECC adventure looks like. But then I quickly went off the rails. So then when I wrote Who's Pitch of Jonas Groff, my second adventure, which I love, I look back now and it really is a sandbox adventure. It's not a funnel, even though it was presented as a funnel. It's way too big. It's like 25,000 words, and then my third one was like 40,000 words, gathering in the mark. So with Ben, I'm trying to constrain him that the actual adventure is a Goodman Games thing, but then there's going to be a whole bunch of additional material that'll be kind of like the added appendix kind of stuff.
Yeah. But Portal Under the Stars, as I happen to know because we've been discussing this, really is 3,500 words.
Wow. I wish. Yeah, Ben will knock off 3,500 words in a day if you really need
it.
Right. But yeah, that's amazing.
Brendan LaSalle has worked on a very short thing for me. He's like, this is like writing an adventure haiku. This is like,
Well, see, but I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about DCC is that it doesn't need, it doesn't need to be that much to take it, and just as long, if you have an interesting NPC or one interesting monster, it's just the vibe of the game can just take off with that. And so that's why, of course, it's like my adventures were really long. It's like I was giving paths, basically different paths, and then I eventually figured out that's not a good idea, because then you write a bunch of material that might never get used in the adventure. And it's an interesting thing that when I was sending Benjamin about how to create an adventure, after I'd written my first 3 adventures, I went through a process of examining like all the classic DCC adventures, including, obviously Sailors, but then also, of course, Frozen in Time, where I would look at your adventure and I just picked its pieces about like, how are these encounters laid out, and how do you do these things so you provide options without writing a bunch of stuff that's never going to be used in the adventure. It was really, really cool. So Ben actually took a lot of that stuff to heart. So some of this, he has benefited from the wisdom of Frozen in Time about how that adventure is laid out, of how to make it so it's this interesting, but keep it without getting too huge.
All right. So now this is Ben's first work. I mean, how much of a role did you play? Were you just like my Padawan? He was like, you must know, I will give you sage advice, but you're on your own here. Is that?
Well, it's like he knows he's a brilliant kid, and so he knows he has things.
You're obligated to say that. That's
oh no, it's like he combined all the best stuff of his mother and me, of like what we're good at. He's good at all those things, but clearly there's a bunch of things that he has to learn, and that's why it's really gratifying that like I'm the editor. And it's like, it's the same thing with everyone that I've worked with, with like, we have these fantastic adventures from Mark and Dave and Terry, who did Purple Sorcerer Adventures. But it's like, I love that role as an editor, because then you're just making sure, they're there, that fits the vibe of what we do. And right. So it's like, I think that's really helped Ben feel less intimidated, because he's giving me this great content, but he knows, it'll go through this editing process. And so it's all going to be good. And that's actually a great way to work, because I love the editing process. He's a fast writer. I think that's a really good combination.
All right, good. It sounds like this is like another great Purple Saucer release.
We have like, I got to mention that Matt Sutton, who is doing the art, for the adventure. You might know him as Missing Thrope. If you've ever seen his stuff, he's just fantastic. And I came in contact with him because on Mark's for the adventure, he had an additional adventure in the Solomons Omnibus where he got this fantastic art from Matt Sutton for free. This dwarven art that he said, yeah, you can go ahead and use it in the adventure. And so we did. And so I reached out to him, when I was casting about for an artist for this adventure, kind of literally, because he doesn't really recruit, people asking him about his work. And he's come on and he's just like, man, he's just cranked this stuff out. And it's like, he's perfectly encapsulating. And I know it's like, if you've ever worked with an artist, that you actually give them an idea and then they actually come back with things that it's just like, wow, this is what I was envisioning and more. And so Matt's just doing a fantastic job with the art. So we couldn't be happier.
All right. Excellent. So this is so do you have any stretch goals planned, or is this
it's like, as others mentioned, there's like always going to be like the simple level and then like the additional stuff. So it's really basically for this one, it's just going to be kind of like the 2 tiers of like, there's the adventure and then there's like all this additional material. So like a lot of the stretch goals will be things like additional content, the standard stuff we do, like paper miniatures and third-party cover. Like, I love when we worked on the Solomons Omnibus. We worked with both Stephen Pogue and Mullen, who that's just like such a thrill, So we'll do stuff like that, but it's all, again, the idea of it's all just this very obtainable kind of things that we've done before. We'll do it again, right. So that no one gets in any trouble.
You have 10 years of experience in doing this.
Yeah.
At the very beginning. So
you don't want to mess it up.
What level adventure is it intended for?
It's the first one will be a first level adventure. The second one will be second, and then the third one will be a third level.
Okay, all right, makes sense. That works.
Yeah.
All right. So and when is the Kickstarter planned to launch? When is it supposed to
We'll
launch?
be launching it on February 26th.
Okay.
So that'll be the Saturday at the end of the month.
All right. So all right, sounds good. So I mean, it sounds like if you like Vales and Valleys, this is the month for you. You can literally put them right next to each other. The Valley out of time, like we keep it down over there, Shrieking Specters. I mean, I can see a lot of stuff.
And I do the quiet.
So I think we've talked about Purple Saucer games. I think if anybody out there does not know the zero level character generator, you're totally missing out one of the most useful things that's been in this, and it is it would be at twice the price. It would be a steal. I mean, so
we keep trying to push the tools forward. It's like I've had it's common knowledge I've had health issues, which have really complicated things, but we've managed the link Marr generator is out there now. The HTML version of the Crawler's Companion is now out there, which was a huge project because the tools, the classic one was built in or are no more. And I was facing that the Crawler's Companion was just going to go away. And I was like, well, so many people use it. And so converted it so it's like an HTML version that it'll work forever.
Okay.
Much easier for me to update and maintain. So there's always new tools in the pipeline. There's a huge one, hopefully, that I'm going to be requiring help from other folks.
Okay.
Will be the next big one.
I remember a couple of years ago you had run the numbers. You had figured out how many zero level characters it had created over the years. Do you have an updated tally of that, or?
I don't. It was 18 million peasants, I think, back like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's got to be up like 25 million.
Exponentially, it's got to be like at least 36 million zero level characters have been created.
Well, the usage is just so consistent, and I think it's fascinating. I remember when I created the upper level character generator, and I would watch how its usage grew and grew and grew, and then kind of now it has its levels. You have like the 0 level one, you have the upper level generator, and now you have like MCC and the link Marr generators, and it's really fascinating to see how, because you can almost gauge,
right,
what is the usage based on how many people are using generators. And
I mean, obviously the link Marr generator has created 75 million character. No, I'm just kidding.
but it's growing and growing in usage. I just can't express how exciting. Every tool that I've made was designed to help people to address specific issues so that they could play DCC. Right. That's from the very start. Right. And and that is just like, I mean, as I sit back at now as the grandfatherly looking back, it's just, that is so cool. I mean, that is just so fun that people have really used the tools to help them have a better time at the table.
No. So I can't think of a better way to everybody out there, if you have benefited from the Purple Saucer zero level character generator, than to throw some money at Dread Specters of the Shrieking Vale when it goes live later this month. So, John, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking about it. And it's always good to chat with you. So I wish you continued success in all that you do.
Thanks so much, Mike.
All right. So we're at the top of the hour here, so we're just about ready to wrap up. I just want to make a few quick mentions of stuff for those of you out in the viewing audience. The obligatory Dying Earth update, DCC Dying Earth. I am very pleased to say that all 3 books from the box set are in layout right now, as are 4 of the 6 adventures. Right now we are wrapping up doing the editing on the stretch goal on volume 4 and on the stretch goal adventures. Errol Otis just dropped off his adventure. That was the last one we were waiting on the weekend before last, just around the start of the month. So the editing crew is working to get all that stuff together, and if I have my druthers, we're going to hand all that off to art and layout at the start of March. So things are moving on as I've been hoping that they will. So lots of stuff going on with Dying Earth. Reminder: keep your eyes and ears peeled, because DCC 100, the music of the spheres is chaos. by Mr. Harley Stroh is coming. Just start, just get ready for it, because it's going to blow your mind when you see it. I mean, literally, Harley, Joe, and I, we had a little video meeting last week, and this is a 5th level adventure. And if played wrong or right, depending on what your attitude is, it can destroy the multiverse. So, I mean, hey, where can you not go wrong with that? So we'll be having a lot of stuff on Twitch to help celebrate not only DCC 100, but also the 20th anniversary of Goodman Games. We've been around for a long time. Third-party people, including my guest here tonight, anybody interesting, Gesh of the Multiverse, Gius of the Multiverse, there is going to be a link at some point. Elena, if you can drop it in there at some point, if you have not already, or somebody out there can drop it in. Otherwise, if you're watching this asynchronously, it is going to be in the YouTube description. So hopefully, thank you very much. So check it out. That has all the information you need to know. And I think that's about it. Thank you again, Tim. Thank you, Skeeter. Thank you, John, for spending an hour with me here on the show. And we will see all of you in about 30 days. No, 28 days, 29 days, something like that. All right. Good night, everybody.